Have you ever been threatened with a good time and you don't know what to do or where to turn? Well, you've come to the right place. Welcome back, spectators, to the latest episode of Spectales. I'm your recently appointed good time host, Jake, along with my Dreaming of Californication co-host, Jesus. What's going on, Jesus?
Oh, man, even on my family vacation, I'm working, Jake. I'm always working. Unfortunately, I'm part of the toxic hustle culture.
That's right, everybody. If you can't tell, Jesus is calling in on a walkie-talkie from his vacation in California. You can't stop Jesus from getting in on some of that toxic hustle culture, or as I like to refer to it, THC.
Exactly, Jake. You got to stay away from those candies out here, man. They'll throw you for a loop. I mean, one on every corner. I had to pick them up. I thought I was just getting some Skittles. I don't know what happened, man. I was gone for 2 days.
For all you first-time listeners out there, thank you and welcome to the show. Spectales is a comic book podcast that has collectors and creators. What's your Grail tale? Each week, we explore news stories about the comic book grails we love, the epic journeys behind how they were obtained, and how they inspired new creativity.
We also dive into some comic book speculation and how, as collectors, we can help the hobby pay for itself.
I'm really glad you're joining us for the intro this week, Jesus, because this week we get to do our very favorite thing in the world, the Scarce Army Roll Call. Let's go.
Hell yeah, man. You know I wouldn't miss the Scarce Army Roll Call. This week, we're welcoming a new member to the Scarce Army, Lyman, or as he's known on IG, at lyman.branson.2. Thanks for supporting the show. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much for supporting the show, Lyman. It really helps all that we're doing and trying to do here on Spectales. And if you're interested in learning more about becoming a patron yourself, go check out our link in the show notes for Patreon or head over to patreon.com and search Spectales. We pump out new exclusive content every month and try our best to make it worth your while as a supporter.
This week, good friend of the show and one of the internet's hardest working comic book flippers, Henry from Black Market Comics, joins us to talk about helping collectors find their grails.
And for all of you wondering if Jesus is going to sound like this for the remainder of the episode, we are just recording the intro this way. Jesus was actually with us live for the recording of the episode. So the walkie-talkie sound is going to go away just after the intro here.
Unless you guys like it, email us, let us know.
Yeah, we're not going to get those emails. So email us if you like that walkie-talkie voice, and never forget what happens to those who lose that loving feeling. This is episode 46.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spectales, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
We've done it again. We are officially kicking off another episode of Spectales, creeping closer and closer to episode 50. This week, we're joined by a longtime friend of the show and comic book sales mogul, Henry from Black Market Comics. Henry, thank you for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
What's going on, Henry, man?
Yeah, excited to finally be on the show, man. I've been listening since episode 1.
Awesome, man. Glad you finally joined us here in these trenches. I've been with you in the trenches selling on Tuesday nights, every Tuesday night. So now you get to join these trenches, man.
Yeah. I'm jumping on over here, yeah.
If you can't tell out there listening, Jesus and Henry do have a little bit of history together. And now let's talk a little bit about that. How did you guys end up meeting to before you started your sales?
I think it was like a random DM when you were trying to get a bunch of Texas sellers together from Instagram. You know, you had reached out to a couple of us, and I think just me and you kind of just hit it off. And one day we said, hey, let's try a live sale. And we went through all kinds of bumps and bruises along the way, but that was a good time.
Yeah, I was just reaching out because there's a lot of us on Instagram, and this was probably over a year ago, Randy, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of us that are kind of trying to do the same thing and make the hobby pay for itself and help the hobby pay for itself. And I was like, hey man, you're doing what I'm doing, or I'm trying to do what you're doing, or we're all doing the same thing. So why don't we kind of join forces and get this learning curve down quicker, since, you know, we're going to be making some mistakes and they'll probably be different than each other, and we'll probably learn some best practices. So let's kind of band up and see what we can do. And Henry and I just kind of hit it off, and we're both from Texas, and we enjoy comic books. Henry's a big reader. I'm a big reader, and it just kind of went from there.
Nice. Yeah, Henry, this is something that I know we've been trying to sort of organize and get you on the show for a little bit now. Glad we could finally make it happen. But yeah, Jesus has told me a lot. I know you guys used to regularly sell every Tuesday night. And I know, Jesus, you've kind of taken a little bit of a side because of just being busy as hell at home with the kids and life and stuff like that. And meanwhile, Henry, you've been just going full force. Like we were just talking, like somebody will turn on Instagram at 1 a.m. and you're just like, I'll do this one for $5. I'll do that one for $10. Just going
Sick in everything, man. Rain or shine. I'll have no voice, laryngitis. In the middle of a COVID test, like hoping and praying that it's not COVID, but I'm still alive, trying to flip these books.
The correct term is Henry's been going ham with the sales of comic books.
Once again, it is not my job to keep track of all of these phrases and nomenclatures. Anyway, so Henry, you're going ham on the nightly sales, but you still have the time to read and collect for yourself, correct?
I sure do. Yeah, it's constant. Selling as much as I do, you've got to be always on the lookout, whether that's locally for books or through other apps, other sellers on Instagram, eBay, of course.
Yeah.
But you're always on the lookout. And, like you guys have said on the show before, like if you want to get that step ahead of everybody to get in front of spec, you got to read the stuff. You got to know the material.
It always helps to read it, not to mention, I mean, that's part of the hobby, right? I mean, not for everybody, and there's no wrong way to hobby, but in my opinion, there is more enjoyment when you read the stuff you're buying, read the stuff you're collecting, and it also helps you figure out what your grails are, right? Like I learned grails that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just about learning the grails that are, big, key, expensive books, but it's also grails that are important to people. I got so many folks that ask for X-Men #1. There was over 8 million of them easily printed. It's one of the simplest books you can get. But for a lot of people that are just either coming back to the hobby or starting it for the first time, X-Men #1 is their grail.
Yeah.
You're talking about like from 1992?
Yeah, 92, Jim Lee, Claremont. Yeah.
It's a nostalgia factor for me on that one too. Like I have like all of the covers on that one. I have a Virgin cover signed by Jim Lee himself, which I need to get authenticated. But that's how I felt too when I came back into it. I was like, I need to get that book because I love the animated series.
Yeah, it is. I'm interested to see, kind of like Spawn. Doesn't everybody still want / have a copy of Spawn #1 in their collection somewhere? Right.
I will not hold a Spawn #1 for more than maybe 12 hours. I don't even have to put it up at night. I know particular people who are always looking for it, and it's always just like shooting fish in a barrel when it comes to trying to sell your Spawn. There's so many buyers for it. I've got this one right here that I found it in somebody's collection. I said, hey, can I have that one too? And they threw it in for free because there's water damage to it. Huh. But if all I have to do is just press this bad boy, and guaranteed buy because it's a Spawn #1.
Yeah, that's the free comic book day edition, right?
That's yeah. I think it's like the 8th printing of this book or something like that.
Yeah, but you're gonna find people who want it. That's cool. That's pretty awesome. And yeah, so that's the way I see the X-Men #1. It's also a book I have. I think I have 2 different versions of it in my collection. I'd have to go back, honestly. It's in a box somewhere. But I have it, and that's certainly one that you're right. The nostalgia from the 90s, it really does carry some of those characters. And I also think that it really charges a lot of the Spider-Man love in the younger generation, right? You can go back and there's a lot of Spider-Man love for the older stuff from the older generation because he was a super popular character. But Spider-Man in the 90s, man, like they went ham in the 90s on Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'd say even the 80s. Todd McFarlane was firing on all cylinders
true.
there, and
Eric Larson was in that run too, right? Or
yeah. Eric Larson.
Eric Larson after, they told him.
Friend of the show, Eric Larson.
Oh, yeah, that's right, guys.
Man, that was fun. So let's you know what? Let's get into this first segment because I think that might potentially tie into some of what we're already talking about. For those of you who are first-time listeners out there, we do 3 basic segments on this show. We are going to kick everything off with recent pickups. We will go into the Grail Tale segment where Henry here is going to talk about a comic book Grail of his, but he will make this story of his own. Everybody kind of takes that segment a little bit differently, but it'll be Henry's job to entertain us and you as well.
Excellent. I think I got a perfect scenario for you.
Awesome. And then lastly, we will close the show out with a speculation segment. We always like talking about how we can help this hobby pay for itself. And that speculation segment will cover some books or collectibles you may want to go out and look for yourself. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Perfect. Let's kick it off.
Recent pickups.
All right, the recent pickup segment, everybody's favorite segment to start the show. Jesus, what do you got?
All right, man, this is more along the lines of stuff that I've been reading. I've been waiting for this book. This book has been very hyped because it's big names on it. So let me tell you who it's from and what it is. It's actually Bloodstained Teeth by Christian Ward, Patrick Reynolds, Heather Moore, and Hassan Otsmane El-Hau. So it's a thing that is about vampires, and as you guys know, I love vampires, werewolves, things that go bump in the night. But man, this one sets it up pretty cool. It has awesome artwork on the interiors. I'm trying to get to a good page on here. Christian Ward, you guys know. I mean, look at this. You guys know I love.
Who is the artist on that?
I think it is Christian Ward.
That looks very Neil Adams almost.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just about to say that there is something almost nostalgic Neil Adams style to that art, and I'm all here for it. I actually have that book on my stack. I have not read it yet.
So, man, I mean, I can't ruin it for you, man. I was going to go more in depth into it, but I just like the world building, the lore. I mean, that's something that I've always liked about vampire stories. So there's a lot of lore, there's a lot of like rules or things and whatnot, as far as born vampires versus turned vampires and things of that nature in this book, which I just love, man. I love how creators make it their own. Vampires have been around for a long time, vampire stories have been around for a long time, so putting a little bit different twists on it and kind of going in depth into what it could be or what it is for them in this specific storyline. I just think it's great, man, and it's something new. So I really enjoy it. It's on my pull list now. Obviously, I don't know if you guys know or based on our shows, Christian Ward is one of my favorite artists right now, working right now. He just does, ever since the Proctor Riley Road stuff, even before then, he just does really cool artwork that I really like. So that's my recent pickup, man. Bloodstained Teeth, A Vampire Story. I recommend it. Jake hasn't read it, but I recommended it to Jake. He picked it up because of me. I give the best recommendations. You're welcome, Jake.
No, thank you so much. I was gonna ask, I think on one of our earlier shows, didn't you say that you want to be a vampire when you grow up?
Yeah. What right now I'm a familiar. If you guys don't know what that is, I have a vampire that's my overlord and forces me to do things. So
you got the show me the tattoo on the back of your neck.
Oh no, it's on the inside of my lip.
Okay. Oh, you got it hidden. Yeah.
Right next to where it says ICP.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. All right, Henry. What do you have going on here for us?
I got a couple of things. Jesus mentioned Vampire Stories. I got this book, West of Sundown.
Yes.
By Tim Seeley.
Oh, yeah. Friend of the show, Tim Seeley. Love that book.
Yeah, it's a really good book.
That's a different cover though, right?
I got a virgin variant, I guess.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I want to say that's like cover C. isn't it?
Yeah, it's the third cover variant according to the barcode.
Yeah. See, look at me with the big brain.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I'm picking that up, but and it's fairly recent. It came out like 2-3 weeks ago. But the one thing that I'm going backwards for is Planetary by Warren Ellis and John Cassidy.
Oh
man, I've heard about that one, man.
It is good. I mean, you've heard about me gushing over Stormwatch.
Yeah.
Same vein. This is going to be during a time when widescreen comics were a thing. So big explosive panels, lots of plot twists.
Nice.
And because it's Warren Ellis, it's a really good story.
Yeah, Warren Ellis is a fantastic writer. What's the date on that? When was that thing? When did that come out?
Oh, this had to be the early 2000s. Give me 1 second. This is a reprint that I have. 2009.
2009.
No, that was the date of the reprint.
So this would have been before Ellis did. This would have been a few years before he got into the Hawkeye series, right?
1999.
1999, way before Hawkeye.
Yeah, this was probably right after Transmetropolitan.
Yeah, dude, the one of the big ones, right? That he's known for.
Right.
Who published that? The Planetary.
Planetary was Wildstorm when they were under Image still.
Oh, okay. Very cool. All right, nice. Wow. And is that something that you're collecting to read?
It is. I had read it in trades, but I recently came across a huge portion of the run in dollar bins.
Oh.
And I figured, no, these are going with me. These are mine, and I need the floppies. And the art on each one of those covers is amazing because it's all over the place. It touches on minimalism. It goes into just like Neil Adams had started on the ads in the in the 50s, the early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of aesthetic. It's really cool, and almost an anthology series with just the same kind of cast and an overarching story.
Yeah, no, honestly, I think that there could be a show where the hosts only talk about comic books from the 1990s. And they would never run out of content. They would just never run out of stuff to talk about because the 90s have so much stuff. Now, I was going to say junk, but I don't mean it negatively. There's just a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. Yeah. They packed a lot of stuff into 10 years.
Yeah.
God. And I always say, for people that wanted to get you'll get people that want to get into early Image 90s. I tell them, pick up Stormwatch, pick up that continuous series that was going. You won't have any trouble getting the entire run. You can't tell somebody to pick up Spawn because eventually you're going to get to a point where some of those issues are $200-$300.
Yeah.
So I think Stormwatch is a good cross section of what was happening in comics at the time. You were going from this superhero, emphasis on art as opposed to the script, and it goes into hiring somebody like Warren Ellis who came in and was story driven.
Yeah,
it was these big epic splash pages and everything. So I you're absolutely right. It's a hell of a time in comics in the late 90s.
That I am correct, Henry. I like you, by the way. Always complimenting me, telling me when I'm right. That's the way to be a guest,
That one thing out of many that you're correct, because all other stuff is not. That's how he meant it, Jake. Just so.
Well, I'll take it how I want. You take it how you want. Okay, Jesus? Well, it sounds like it's my turn, and I am actually trying to catch up on some reading that I got a little behind on. So I am bringing up a book that came out last month that I just read, actually, and I loved it, although I was kind of sad to see this series come to an end. This is Last Ronin, issue number 5. And I was a huge fan of the series. I mean, I've been reading it since the beginning. I do think that maybe they got a little aggressive when it comes to the variant covers for these books, but I guess I can't argue with sales, right? Like people are going nuts over these things.
Oh, yeah.
But the series as a whole, Eastman, Laird, and I believe the other names here. Let's see. What do we got? Script is by Tom Waltz and Kevin Eastman. Story by Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, and Tom Waltz. And then it looks like Eastman did the layouts, inks, and so. But It's good. It was a little predictable by the ending, and I don't want to say anything negative because I really enjoyed it, the completion of it. But I felt like the first 4 issues really were super well thought out. They seemed dense and full of character. And issue 5 just brought it all together at the end, and it wasn't a bad ending, but it was slightly predictable, which the other issues weren't predictable. That was the best part, where you were like, wait, what? And they kept, developing the story even more and more. But by the time we got to issue number 5, it seemed like they were trying to wrap it all up in a nice little bow. And in my opinion, I would have been like, hey, just take this thing 3 more issues, right? Like really... I am not the type of person that enjoys when comic book or storytellers, even in TV shows, I've never been a fan when people just milk something just for the sake of milking it, right? To get more advertising dollars or things like that. I'm not a fan of that. In this particular case, I would have read more of this. I would have read more of this storyline, more of the characters. I would have loved to have learned more. And I think that this last issue, it's thick. I mean, it's not even that thick, to be honest. This is kind of I think it's the smallest book of all 5. So my opinion on The Last Ronin is the series as a whole is wonderful, but the ending almost stops short of fantastic. And, kind of like Game of Thrones, right? Like everyone, the first few seasons were amazing, right? Just mind blowing. And then the ending, they just kind of didn't stick the landing. But so that's how I feel about The Last Ronin.
I mean, that's a great series. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I haven't finished it either, so I'm behind on that. But like you mentioned, they didn't stick the landing in your opinion. My question to you, and maybe this is also, I don't know, a bigger question is it better to have you as a consumer, as a reader, wanting more of a story, or being, I guess saying it was too much, like you overdid it. You know what I mean? Like I guess the comparison I have right now that comes to mind, which I don't even know, I guess is either like the Harry Potter stuff, like the movies and the books that just keep coming out and revising, canonical characters or storylines, or maybe even the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit series, right? Like the Hobbit series didn't get nearly as much acclaim as the original trilogy. So which one is it? Which one's better to be in from a creator standpoint? How do you want your audience?
Well, in my opinion, one is too far, one's not far enough. You need to meet in the middle. So
that was not that
was a political answer.
Yeah, you have to pick one or the other, Jake.
All right. Well, as a consumer, I am going to go ahead and say I would rather you give me too much, more than enough. I will sort through a little bit of junk if I can get the gems, right? Like now, I am one of the rare Hobbit fans. I liked all 3 of the movies. Don't throw stones at me. I can enjoy. I'm allowed to like the movies even if you don't. And because of that, I will still regularly watch those movies. And the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now that's the best one is the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Hobbit trilogy is by far not as good, but that doesn't make it any less entertaining for me, who really just enjoyed the books, and I like to revisit the movies every now and then. And so does my son. So we will just randomly just turn it on in the background while we're doing chores around the house or something like that.
About you, Henry, how would you like it as a consumer? Where do you want to be at? Not enough or too much?
I want to be at not enough, I think. Because let me give you an example. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I had built that story to be something completely different than what I saw in my head. That's the hype. But I got enjoyment out of that. That was so fun, talking to people online and saying, like, look, hey, man, did you hear about this spec? Did you hear about that spec? These rumors are what make these Marvel movies half as fun.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't disagree with that part. I love the speculation side of things where will we get this or won't we get that? And in that particular case, you're right. Marvel can't give you everything you ask for in their films. If they did, it would be ridiculous, right? We would end up with, I can't say, I was about to say some spoilers, but I think we're still too close to the Doctor Strange to give out full spoilers. Although at this point, honestly, if you haven't seen the movie by now, are you really even going to see it?
There's a sense of duty that Disney forces on people. So, I'm just as guilty of it. But like, I had to watch the Moon Knight. I didn't think very highly of it, but I had to still watch it out of a sense of duty.
Oh, now I'm not going to defend Moon Knight as a series as a whole. I didn't dislike it, but I did enjoy the ending. I did enjoy that last episode where I was like, man, they really hit that one hard. It was hit perfectly. I was like, where was it the rest of the series? So, but we don't need to go into all that.
Right. That's a different rabbit hole for another show.
That's a different episode.
I hear floppies coming on that one.
That just might be. We'll have to talk about that. But we've just finished the recent pickup segment, which can only mean we need to get to
Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale.
The Grail Tale segment. Henry, this is our favorite segment because we get to just sit back, relax, and be entertained. And if possible, we'd really enjoy laughing, Henry. So please say something also funny.
Say something funny. Man, there's a lot of pressure on me. All right. So as a seller, I kind of stopped buying for myself. I stopped caring about buying particular issues. I want to resell.
Yep.
But I, as a seller here, sometimes the nostalgia factor, these comics are bringing people a joy that they get from, it's rare in the hobby world, so I'll give you an example. I'm in another podcast. I saw a Twitch show called the Frank Welker Wonder Hour.
Okay.
And one of my buddies on there, he is just kind of getting into comic books. He was as a child, but his parents were kind of strict with him. So when he would pick one up at a gas station or at a grocery store, it had to go through an approval process, which meant that, let me give you an example. Wolverine #6 has that Todd McFarlane pinup on the back where he's smoking.
Yeah.
He was telling me that because Wolverine is smoking a cigar and that he shouldn't have it as a child. His father tossed the damn book, so he couldn't keep it. As an adult, now the guy is older than dirt. but as an adult now with adult money, he remembered buying that issue, having it ripped up and tossed in the trash. He wanted it as an adult. It's not an expensive book. I think I found it for him for like $5. But his face when he finally received it in the mail, he did it, on a live, he glowed. It brought back memories for him. He got that serotonin boost from seeing that Todd McFarlane pinup that he wasn't allowed to have as a child that now he has as an adult. You see that over and over again, whether it's from comics like random ass comics like Wolverine #6 or some of the important stuff like Infinity Gauntlet or Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah. That's interesting because you go back and I think everybody or a lot of people had parents like that who were, seemingly trying to do the right thing, what was best by what they thought for their child. But ultimately maybe even implanted that nostalgia that we weren't even aware of, right? They planted that seed. I kind of wonder if I would have that same glow, as you said, if I were to go and rebuy those Limp Bizkit albums that my parents threw away. I don't know if I would, but maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. If you give up on trying to be cool and you want to wear those Dickies with the Converse, and then do it, man. All more power to you.
I did it all for the nookie,
That's interesting because that's I mean, dude, my origin story is one and the same, man. I was able to get a Ghost Rider book and read it, on the way to, my work with my dad. And then on the way back, when my mom saw it, she grabbed it because it's a flaming skull and she just threw it in the trash when I was like 8 or 9 years old or whatever age I was. So that's very interesting, man. A lot of people, I guess, had the same origin story for comic books where the parents kind of vetoed it because, at that time, I guess, the violence was being blamed on comic books or video games or something of that nature. But yeah, man, that's awesome, man. And how, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but like you were saying, like sometimes it's for the best interest of your child, but also like it's not necessarily just because it was a smoking thing. Like, my first one was a the heavy metal magazine.
Oh yeah,
so that got tossed for very good reason when I was 10 years old.
Yes. Oh, try being a 10-year-old and experiencing the heavy metal animated movie.
And
being like
John Candy, I love John Candy, and then you see it like,
I had a very well, at the time I thought he was really cool, but in reality he should not have been showing us heavy metal. I saw some things, and to be honest, that actually seeing heavy metal for the first time when I was way too young, honestly, I probably was I was under 10, and the truth be told, it really messed me up when I saw cartoons killing other cartoons, right? Like what I related to, like you didn't see, the Coyote would drop the anvil on Roadrunner, or no, excuse me, the Roadrunner would drop the anvil on Coyote, but he wouldn't die, right? You wouldn't see his skull get smashed into the ground with blood going everywhere. And yet heavy metal was like, they're coming back, right? No? Oh, that's not good.
They were melted?
Why did those men's face melt off? Right? These are questions from an 8-year-old watching heavy metal. I shouldn't have done that. Sorry, but I digress. Henry, please continue.
No, I mean, you'll see that going back to the glow. You'll see that whether it's random stuff or major keys. But it happens. It's great. It's why part of the reason why I enjoy selling comics so much and keeping up with the people that buy your stuff, because it really encourages you. It keeps you going when I've done a live sell for maybe like every day in a 2-week period, and I'm tired and I don't want to do it anymore, and maybe it's not paying off, and then you hear those stories. It's just an energy boost.
Man, is this the first? I mean, I don't know. I think it is, but the first Grails where it's somebody like you finding it for somebody else. Like, is that right, Jake?
For us on Spectales, I believe that is the first Grail tale where it's more the facilitator telling the story, which is interesting. And Henry, that perspective, I would like to dive a little bit deeper into that. So you are the Grail finder.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, in this particular case, you have assisted people, and maybe I'll ask another question a little bit deeper, but you've assisted people in finding their Grails. And I know the story that you were saying was more specific to a $5, Todd McFarlane pinup poster, basically. What issue was that, by the way? Wolverine?
It was Wolverine Volume 2, Issue 6 is the one with Todd McFarlane in the back.
Got it. And so, that's a $5 book, like you said.
Yeah.
What is
$5 book all day?
What is the most expensive, or what's the most valuable Grail you think you've facilitated, you helped somebody find?
Not very much. Maybe like a Secret Wars. Yeah, there's the McFarlane, but maybe like a Secret Wars 8 or something. I haven't had an audience that really looks for any like the Golden Age stuff, or no one's looking for an Action Comics 15.
Yeah,
that are coming on my live shows. Other people, yeah, but and most of the time, it's just the basics. It's X-Men #1 that had 8 million copies printed. It's X-Force #1 with that Deadpool rookie card because they had it. They had that card. They would take it to school and whatnot.
I have one of those, by the way. It's still in bag, actually.
Still in bag. It's probably not going to go anywhere either. You've had it for a very long time, more likely. I had 6 copies for some reason, and this was before I was selling. I had 6 copies of that damn book. They're all gone now, but
that Secret Wars 8 that you mentioned too, I think that's interesting as well, because me getting back into it, that was one of the books that I went after as well, because at the time, which right now right now it's blown up. I'm not gonna give away the reason why or anything of that nature. But before, when you got in, that was one of the books that was affordable from a Spider-Man key, right? It was Secret Wars 8. It was tied with the first black suit with what is it, Marvel Team Up. What is it? What's that Marvel Team Up? I think it's number 21 or something like that. I forget what it's called. But they basically came out in the same month, so it's tied for the first black suit.
Yeah, with Daredevil, are really right?
Cool. I'm sorry?
With Daredevil's on the cover of that,
Daredevil,
right?
Yeah, and they're really, both of them are really cool, iconic covers.
Yes.
I think the Secret Wars are a little bit more than the Marvel Team Up, but so that's a very affordable Spider-Man key when you get into collecting. And that is a grail for a lot of people. I mean, right now that book is what, north of $200, $250 in a raw form.
Raw, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a grail in itself, man. And when people get that book, that's also an accomplishment. Like, hey, I got a pretty decent sized Spider-Man.
It's key. One of those. I don't know if it's considered an insult or not, but it's like a mid-tier Spider-Man key, right? Because you're not going to go all the way back to the Spider-Man keys from the 60s, because those things, you get into Spider-Man 1 or the AF-15 or ASM 15 or 14 is the Green Goblin, right?
14
is the Green Goblin, and they're all the major villains are up there in those early ones. But you get into the 80s and there's a few more keys, and that Secret Wars 8 is in there. Something about Secret Wars 8, I think I said it on one of our shows. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been the New Year's special, but Secret Wars 8 actually came out the same month I was born. So that is a book that's constantly been on my list of something I'm looking for, but not aggressively going after. The price has been pretty steady for the last couple of years. Honestly, it hasn't. I continue to expect it to go down, and it doesn't really drop that much. It just stays right around that like 200. You can probably find a lower grade one for $100, $150 or something like that. But I was trying to find a nice copy, and it's still always sitting just out of the price range from where I'm like, I'll get it next time. So, but yeah, and is that a direction you want to go, Henry, though? Like the facilitator of Grails, right? Is that like you were saying, absolutely. Like you take pride in that, and that's something that keeps you coming back as a seller, right?
Right. Absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah. I think for me, when I sell too, and just to back up Henry on what he's saying, I haven't had that facilitation that often, but when it happens, I mean, you do have this high, man, like this feeling, like you get a DM saying, "Hey, man, this is exactly what you said it was going to be. I'm so glad I got it. Came, perfect. Thank you so much. I'm gonna keep doing business with you. I'm gonna share your name with everybody." And that's just them trying to, kind of tell you how much that means to them to be able to get that book that they wanted in the condition that they wanted. So, yeah, man, that's pretty cool. And I think you need a trademark the Grail facilitator, Henry.
The Grail facilitator. It's like that scene in Ratatouille at the very end. Somebody gets it, and then they're flashing back to their childhood. And but
exactly.
Instead of food, it's comics.
Exactly. Like what is it? You talk about Disney movies, or that was a Pixar movie. I think I know all about them, and I related to the what is it called, the Inside Out with the core memories, dude. Like if you have a core memory around comic books, and then you're later on in life with like grown up money, like you said, and you get that same feeling, you get that sense that washes over you, and you do a little flashback. Right. So we're all chasing that when we sell.
You know what, Jesus, this is just an idea, but maybe what we should do for Spec Tales is we need to get like a stamp made that is like certified Grail facilitator. And, when we find one like Henry, we do we'll get some sound effect, and it'll be like, dun, dun, stamp. And, make that stamp noise.
You just want to stamp the front of the cover of the comic book too, while you're just bam.
Yeah. It adds to the value. Trust me. It'll be fine.
I can see it now. A lot of complaints, but people will, in the long run, Appreciate
on a book, when I sell a book, I have a little sticker that I put on the bag itself. People get so mad at that thing.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And it's just on the bag. It's not like I'm putting it on the board or anything.
You should use the sticker to seal the bag on the back.
Yeah.
Because instead of tape, you use that sticker.
Tape.
And then they're not going to get mad at you. They're going to be like, "Oh, that was a thoughtful use of the sticker." Maybe
Man,
I don't know. That's just an idea, Henry. You use it however you want.
Henry and I have exchanged comic books, right? And he did that to me. But I didn't. I thought it was I thought it was fine. No,
I remember you called me. You were so pissed off, Jesus.
That is a lie. That is a lie. It's right at the top, and I was like, "This is so cool, man!" Because it's a QR code. So you scan the QR code, and it takes them to all his links, like Instagram, eBay, all that stuff. So I was like, "Man, that's really cool right there." I wanted to know how to do it, and that's what I'm talking about: sharing best practices, man.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many times I've seen my book with the sticker on somebody else's for sale page. or you remember Zach does that all the time. I send him a book, it's got the sticker on there, he'll forget to put it. He's like, "Oh shit, I'm reselling this. It was from Henry's collection."
Man, you called Zach out, but he's gonna enjoy the shout out. Shout out Zach, man. Zach is a really cool friend of ours on Instagram.
What's his handle? Might as well give him the full shout out.
Yeah, he's a seller too. It's at Zach Mitchell 6.
Well, there
Zach's
you go.
Comics, right?
Zach's Comics
Zach's
getting a shout out on Spectales. All right. Well, I honestly think it's a really cool perspective. And Henry, as you continue to sell, if you end up facilitating another Grail, another big moment for somebody, please let us know. We'd love to share that story as well. So, and
awesome.
maybe, Jesus, down the road, maybe we could do a duel, right? When Henry, when you facilitate your first, Hulk 181, or, let's not put a definition on it, but your next, Grail's tale, right? We'll get you and the buyer on the show together, and we'll do that story.
Yeah, I've got that Sandman 8 right now. As soon as it goes, or a Spider-Man India set, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Spider-Man India is very rare, man. People look for that all the time.
That's cool.
What was I going to say about that too? Anytime you do those two and you have those and we don't have time, or we can't, fix you into the scheduling or what have you, you can drop it on our Patreon or on our Discord too, because Henry's active on both of those.
Oh, so,
yeah, that'd be pretty cool too.
That would be awesome. Either way, we'd love to tell more of those tales, Henry. And if you're willing to share them, we'll take them.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's talk about our next favorite thing, and that's the next segment here. Speculation. The speculation segment. This is the one where we're going to talk about some books or collectibles that we feel like are going to be worth some money in the future and worth your time to pick up now. So, Henry, I think I'd like to start with you on this one as an everyday seller. Jesus, you're not selling as often as you used to anymore, and I kind of feel like maybe Henry is like what's the word? Taking the throne.
Hey, I'm trying to bring him back all the time. Every time I have a conversation with that dude, I'm like, "Hey, when we going live?"
I just had to poke the bear on that one.
While coming back.
Oh man, I got a couple more weeks, man, but I will be back. But being back means that I left, and I never left. I've always been here.
He's always been there.
Don't call it a comeback. Don't call it a comeback. But Henry, that said, I'm gonna let you kick things off this time around.
Okay, great. We were just talking about Spider-Man keys. I think something to pick up right now is ASM 258. There's a lot of firsts that are happening in this issue. This is a famous, who did this?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. I like that cover. I've seen that one around.
A couple months ago, you could pick this up for $10 maybe. Now it's going for almost the highest raw sales are going for 100 to 140.
Really?
It's a big book. It's getting bigger. I think people are finally realizing it. And you can probably find a copy on average for about $30-$40 on eBay right now. Hold on to it for another couple months even. It's not even years. And you'll see that the the value on this book is going to rise like crazy. This is going to be the first appearance of Spider-Man's costume with the paper bag because he had to give up the symbiote, the black suit. This is where you find out that the black suit is a symbiote.
Oh.
This is also a really famous scene from the Spider-Man animated series in its intro and probably part of the first episode. Well, it was in there somewhere, but I remember this being in the intro itself.
I remember that scene because it's got the bell tower in it, right? Is that the bell tower scene?
Oh, well, no, this is not the bell tower scene. This is when he goes to the Baxter building and Mr. Fantastic tells him it's a symbiote.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Well, Reed Richards discovers that Spider-Man's black costume is an alien symbiote in that issue, and the name or the name of that people have named that costume is the Bombastic Bagman costume for Spider-Man.
Yeah,
and it's basically a Fantastic Four uniform with the brown paper bag for a mask
and no shoes,
because he had to give up his costume. So yeah, this is a big issue too, man. I see this all the time. I pick it up all the time. I remember selling this, like you said, Henry, for $10, like 6 to 8 months ago, like for nothing, and now it is climbing. So that's a really good spec.
Interesting, and I think we're far enough away from No Way Home where it's not really considered a spoiler. But with the way No Way Home ended, and Spider-Man now making his own suit, and nobody knowing who Spider-Man was anymore, who Peter Parker was, I guess is the better way to put it. Do you think that is the next storyline that they may try to go down, and that's why all the speculation has been the book has been pumping up?
Well, spoiler warning first. For that movie, you haven't seen it. You know, might want to fast forward.
You have. You have.
Yeah, there was that ending when Tom Hardy comes in, or he's already there at that bar, and they're talking about like there was a man in a metal suit and a giant green monster, and the little piece of the alien symbiote is crawling on the bar there after Eddie pops back into his own reality.
Yep.
Marvel is setting up. There's no question about it. Marvel is setting up a Black Suit saga. Marvel is bringing Venom into the MCU at some point, more than what they did with No Way Home, and that's a lot of the reason why you're going to see these black suits jump up.
Only go up more. Yeah, because they've already
been popular.
Yeah, they've already exactly.
They've already been popular. Jake doesn't like the Sony verse. Venom. But
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
But at the same time, imagine if they allow Marvel to do, Venom or Black Suit Spider-Man, how well they're going to be able to pull it off, and that will in turn drive these small mid keys of the Black Suit up even higher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if Sony wants to literally just give Disney all of the IP that they have for Spider-Man and everything else, and they just said, listen, guys, we know you can do this 20 times better than we can. This is Sony still talking here. Well, I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with Sony. Yeah, no, share profits. No way. Sony doesn't deserve any of it. They deserve no money. They should literally just be giving it over to Disney saying, hey, man, we've really screwed this up for too long. We don't know how to cast. We don't know how to do anything. In fact, we're surprised we even have thumbs. And Sony just gives Disney the rights to everything. And then we actually get some good Venom movies, right?
You know what? You are going to hate the next one that I was going to bring up too, because if I wasn't originally, I had another book that I was going to bring up on this. It's Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man 6 because of the Bad Bunny.
Oh yeah.
Bad Bunny alone is going to bring in sales to that book.
That might be the best casting that they've actually done. I will give them props for that one.
So that was my
that one
pick a few weeks ago with Lance.
Yes,
and Jake hated it. He said, I hate Sony. I hate any spec to do with Sony. I don't care who Bad Bunny is. Bad Bunny is a nobody. He has no fans. That's exactly what he said.
I said they stink and I hate them. That's what it says.
Those people are rabid, Jake. You better watch out. You better grow eyes in the back of your head because those Bad Bunny fans are vicious and they're coming. They're coming for this book.
Hey, I have liked Bad Bunny ever since I saw him in that Corona commercial.
That's one more you got on me because I have never seen that commercial. I know he exists. That's about it.
Yeah, he did a commercial with Snoop Dogg.
Me.
Yeah, he did a commercial with Snoop Dogg. Am I the only one here who saw that?
Probably.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I don't watch commercials.
I don't watch.
Oh, well.
I got that upgraded Hulu.
Oh, he fancy.
I watch commercials. So I can't fast forward on Hulu.
All right, Henry, is that so I didn't want to interrupt you. Is that the last one you got? Or you only got
the last one.
For now.
for now, yeah.
All right, Jesus, let's hear what you got.
All right, man. This is a spec book that's more, I don't know, it should pay off fairly soon, I guess. And I don't really usually do these, but it's not getting as much love as it should be, in my opinion. That's why it's a spec book. I am highlighting Star Wars, Obi-Wan, and Anakin #1 from 2016. It features obviously Obi-Wan and Anakin. It's going for around, I don't know, $10 to $15 right now. We know we're getting an Obi-Wan series. We just saw the trailer drop. The trailer looks phenomenal. Now the reason I'm highlighting it is it's not the Obi-Wan's first solo story. He does a first solo in another one, but it's not named him after him. But this is something that's kind of named after him, even though it includes Anakin in the title. But also because of the writer. The writer of this book is Charles Soule. I mentioned to you guys I love Charles Soule as a writer. He's doing a lot of stuff. He did a lot of stuff for Star Wars. Since 2016, even before then, he just had a book come out about a year and a half ago with the High Republic. He's written a lot of the High Republic books. And why is that important? Not only because he's writing for Star Wars, but recently, I want to say less than 3 months ago, he was named a creative consultant for Star Wars. So a lot of the stuff that he's done, he's already obviously done it already. Like he's already written it already. Now he's consulting Star Wars from a future perspective on what they're going to be doing. So I would be picking up a lot of stuff from Charles Soule. I am picking up a lot of stuff. I already have a lot of stuff because I like him as a writer. So one of the things that we talk about where if you read is going to help you with your spec. And this is another great example of it. So Star Wars, Obi-Wan, and Anakin #1 going for $10 to $15. Once that show comes out, I'm pretty sure they're going to have a lot to do with this 5-issue miniseries, since Charles Soule is the one who wrote it, and he's a creative consultant for Star Wars now.
I was almost going with another book that's on the same vein. It's Star Wars 7, the Obi-Wan journals. I'm waiting for this one to blow up. Same vein though, but it's not Soule. It's Jason Aaron. Yeah,
he's a good writer too.
He's a good writer. Yeah,
very nice. And I wanted to call back to, we were talking about Moon Knight a little bit earlier, and something that has happened with the last 2 Star Wars series, right? With Boba Fett and with season 2 of The Mandalorian that came out. There were episodes that would come out and a comic book issue, an individual issue, you wouldn't really see it coming, would just blow up because we got to see a character that people didn't even know was going to be in the show. And that character popped up and everybody goes nuts. The issue explodes. It goes up by 200%, sells like crazy, and everybody gets on it at that moment. We didn't get that with Moon Knight. We got it with Boba Fett. I know there's some mixed reviews on Boba Fett and, the motorcycle gang and whatever that happened in that series. I rather at least tolerated the series. I enjoyed some aspects of it, not every aspect of it, but I thought it was okay. And I really enjoy The Mandalorian. And so I thought it was interesting that we had some really hot books come out of those series. Nothing like that happened with Moon Knight, at least not in my experience. Nothing, exploded overnight. You didn't wake up the next morning, because I would see that a little bit with the other ones. I didn't see that with Moon Knight.
I would argue that Fist of Khonshu, what is it, issue 3 that has Arthur Harrow.
Okay. Which is the only time he comes out in all the Marvel comics.
Yeah,
that one kind of saw a little bit of a pop.
But wasn't that before the series went off?
It's back down though.
Yeah, it went back down. It went back down.
Went back down by a lot.
Yeah. I think that's part of the FOMO stuff, that when people like see these shows, like they want to get these books and then they go down and they're paying these crazy prices. And also too, like, you know, they had some characters in Moon Knight that weren't part of the MCU or the comic books. Like, for example, the Scarlet Scarab, what Layla, I forgot what her last name is. Layla, she wasn't in the Marvel comics. There's an older version of Scarlet Scarab that supposedly is going to be part of the backstory of her, but you can't find her first appearance in comic books because it doesn't exist. It was specifically made for the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of leeway there with the show. Amit, Amit wasn't in the comic books either. That was the big bad.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot for it to pop from the show itself. So
yeah.
But I agree. I agree. There wasn't just that much, just that one book that Harry mentioned.
And the point that I was trying to make in the end is that I feel as though there was so much Star Wars and Obi-Wan Kenobi lore within the comic books that we are bound to see another random strike, right? We're going to see a few books pop off that, I'm not going to say that nobody will see coming, because I think that people who are paying attention, like you guys, are certainly going to probably have a leg up on some of those books. But I do think that by the masses, they're not going to see some characters coming that are going to be a lot of fun. The last two Star Wars series have done this for us, and I look forward to that as well. And with that, Jesus, we have to tell the listeners that this was not planned, but I also have a Star Wars spec. And I'm actually regretting that I let you go first, because now I know you're probably in your head going, "Oh, he's just copying me." Well, I had this spec months ago. Honestly, I've been waiting. I've been sitting on it I've been sitting on it for just, probably years. Really, is what I've been sitting on this spec. So I had it. Well, I had it before you were even born. Is what I had. But so my speculation is Star Wars related, and it is kind of because of Obi-Wan. And it's, I was trying to look into, if everybody's looking that way, everybody's looking over at Obi-Wan, everybody wants to get those specs when they're popping up, and everybody's thinking about that. But what I'm thinking about is Star Wars 42, or anything Boba Fett / Mandalorian related. Now, I wanted to use Star Wars 42 as an example because it's kind of the extreme example, because Boba Fett blew up about a year ago. April of 2021, a 9.4 Star Wars 42 peaked 1 year ago at just over $1,000 in a 9.4. Now, that's an expensive book, but you can get that exact same book for probably less than $300 right now. Wow. 9.4. And there's a few of them listed on eBay. There are, I don't want to say there are a ton of these books, but there are enough of them where you can go on eBay and pretty easily grab one, but no, they're not selling all that much. So you'd probably be able to go make a best offer to a seller and grab one of these books for pretty darn cheap, by comparison. Now, that book, I believe, is going to go up. It is bound to go up again when we get a season 2 of Boba Fett, or once again when we see The Mandalorian. It's weird. When we see The Mandalorian, Boba Fett goes up, even though it's not Boba Fett, of course. But it doesn't matter. So I wanted to point out that drastic drop in the price on that book. And I would say it's probably even better to try to get a well-graded copy of that book raw. Or get a really good copy of it raw and get it graded yourself. This is so Jesus, you were talking a little bit on the short term. I'm going to go ahead and say this is the perfect time right now to take advantage of the longer grading times. And I know that that's a weird thing to say, but you can essentially go with the modern tier grading, spend $20, send the book in, and forget about it. you have time right now to go find copies of Mandalorian books, Boba Fett books, even pick some other storylines that are still further out, that we've got months, if not a year, before we're actually going to see any action on screen. So that means that these books are going to be sitting dormant for a little while. Go out, find copies, send them in to get graded. If that's something that you'd like to do, if you want to sell graded books, and just wait, spend $20. It's going to save you time. Cause I'm the kind of guy who generally I'll buy a book and then I'll want it graded, but I want it graded now because I don't want to wait. I don't have the patience, but that's usually because I want to put that book in my collection. And I have that fear of, my possessions being far away from me. And I just can't do that. But you
didn't share your toys as a kid, did you?
No, not at all. I had an older brother. I had an older brother and a younger brother, and I was stuck in the middle and always got the hand-me-downs from the older one, and the younger one always had the new. And it was, come on, why am I getting all this stuff? I'm either getting broken G.I. Joes from him, or I've got to try and steal some new blocks from the younger one. Like it was a no-win situation.
Poor Jake.
We just had a breakthrough there.
Yeah.
Don't worry,'ll cut that out. Nobody has to listen to that. Cut that. But in reality, I do think this is a very good time to try to take advantage of the long runway you have to get some books graded for cheap, more affordably. And there's a lot of good ones out there that are already just dropped drastically from where they hit peaks. And I don't know if they'll peak right there again at $1,000, but a 9.4 copy of that book, next time that series comes around, it's going to go up again. It's just going to. You're going to be able to make a few $100s for sure.
And what I'll say too is I'll add to that to help out speculators too is there's also a newsstand version of that book of Star Wars 42. And I kind of did by accident. I picked up a Star Wars 42 way before any of this stuff with Boba Fett and it was the low grade. It was 3.5 for like, I think $60 shipped or something of that nature. And it's just because I wanted the book. I wanted to have the book. I didn't care if it was 3.5. I didn't really care. There's some books out there, man. 3.5s, 4.0s, 4.5s, newsstands that when that book comes back up, you're bound to make some money on it. So it's even cheaper to get into that book than like a 9.4 like Jake's talking about. You're talking about $60-$70 for a 4.0 newsstand. When all those books go up, you'll still make some money on it, and it's a lower point of entry as well.
Yeah, of course. I was picking out the 9.4 because that is the most common grade. In that book. So that's why I was selecting that one. But Jesus makes a very, very good point. He gets one per episode. And he made a very good point that book, I think, has a lot of value in almost any grade. So.
And sending it away to be slabbed right now where, it takes as long as it does, keeps you from having the urge to want to sell it or being talked into selling it. If it's not in your possession and you have no chance of getting rid of that book, and then you'll capitalize on it later.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That was my idea the whole time. Thanks, Henry, for just pointing out once again how brilliant.
Go on it. There you go. I'll be your hype man from now on.
I need to get one of those stamps for you, Henry. You're certified. That's what it is. Okay, well, that's going to finish up the show. Henry, this was a blast. I knew it was going to be. Jesus has told me so many positive things about you. So I just knew right away that we were going to be friends and you were going to recognize my genius.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been listening long enough. I know what to say. Hey, but guys, it's been a real honor. Thank you for finally having me on the show. Appreciate it. And I look forward to when it comes out.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be rolling out pretty soon. But with that, I want to make sure that our listeners can find you out there on the internets. Where can they go?
Go to Instagram. It's black_market_comics on Instagram. There you're going to have the link tree. It'll go to everything else. I also co-host a podcast with my buddy Ozzy. Movies is Comics, available everywhere you hear podcasts. And then also the Frank Welker Wonder Hour, where we just made Frank Welker aware that this exists, and he has given us some distance. We haven't gotten the cease and desist letter yet, but it's gotten interesting. So you got to take a listen to that podcast. See how the saga unfolds.
Possibly the best sales pitch you will ever hear. That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much once again. And out there, if you're listening and you'd like to get a hold of myself or Jesus, you can find us on Instagram at spec_tales_podcast, or you can find us on Twitter at spectalespod. If you'd like to email us, you can go ahead and do so at spectalespodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your Grail tale, or to read it, I should say. And if you do so, we will share it with our listeners. So by all means, please give us an email, send us some information, and we'll reach out. We'll reach out with questions, and we'll talk it out, and maybe we'll get that on the air. All right.
Yeehaw.
That's right. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And that's it for this week, but we'll be back next week. Talk to you later.